the middle, right? Because when you look at like things like unchecked statism, there's nasty consequences on that side too, right? Like this idea that I have to get a sticker put on my car every 12 months to prove to the government that my car is roadworthy. And like, single moms have to decide, like, do I want groceries this month or do I want to get my state permission sticker stuck on my car to say that I can drive down the highway? And we sometimes often create, solutions in seeking a problem. And it puts people at a disadvantage. And the car inspection thing is a very small example, but there's tons and tons of these examples. The idea that, like, in modern society in the United States, you can't truly ever own your property. The government requires you to pay the taxes. If you don't pay the taxes, they're going to take it away from you. I guess some places you don't have to pay property taxes, but those are few and far between. So I think the solution lives somewhere in the middle. I'm all for the personal accountability piece. I want people to stop outsourcing every single one of their problems to the state. Take accountability. Own your own behavior. You don't get to dictate what everybody around you gets to do for your own comfort and convenience. If you don't like your neighbor parking in your street parking spot because you think it's your spot, well, you should have bought a house with a fucking driveway.
But society can have all these individual independent actors that all have private property rights, and they can all utilize this social preference to isolate and minimize people's voices and, well, their preferences.
Samoa, to your argument point, it's like this. What I hear today from Chris DeBema is they want to be the power. Them and the people that they associate with want to be the power control. And like, I'll take someone who's opposite of me is Lou. Like, everybody knows Louie and I bang heads, we crash together. But neither of us would generally go along with either of these positions here and stating that because you're outside the group, I'm going to be able to reap some kind of punishment. And I'm going to have this. Nor do we want the government to actually control every fabric of our day, nor be responsible for taking everything that I have to pay for a mask that sits there and has soft hands and sits in a couch and just contemplates the meaning of life all day. We don't want either of those. We're in the middle, doing the same thing. We probably have very, very vast disagreements, but we're not willing to sacrifice the core principles and say, no, your society has been tried. We deem this a failure because we have seen it fail repeatedly throughout history. And so, like, I don't know when to go. I'm with you, and I'm with multiple other people who say, this is the way.
Well, and the problem is that nobody here wants to dig their own well. Nobody wants to make their own septic tank. Nobody wants to, people are happy to pay their taxes. Well, Nathan, we all know you shoot a hole in the ground.
I know somebody in Indiana who draws water from a well, and they will not drink the tap water that comes from it.
But so still
they have to shower in it, but they will not drink.
So still got to think about your own well purpose. Like, you still have to have an enforcement mechanism for that well, because what if you drill your well and you're tapping into that ground reservoir? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, somebody else is creating runoff in the well. Yeah, no, I get it. You move.
Or you're pouring poison down it. You got some manufacturer, a leather manufacturer, who's tanning hides and puts trichloroethylene down into the water supply. Now all of a sudden you have a major fucking problem because you're going to glow in the dark, your insides are going to melt, and you're going to shit your fucking colon out.
Yeah, that happens now. That happens now.
You're right, it does. And under her society, that would happen more frequently. Like, Love Canal would literally become a fucking massive wave.
Right, but then you can sue them with their Justice Premium Plus plan. And you say, hey, look, I'm in a bad place. I need to go to a better place. The end. Look, you're preaching to the choir. I come from, the largest natural gas shale in the country, and sometimes people's tap water becomes flammable. Like, this is a thing that happens. And it's unfortunate, but it's also a human reality that not all places are suitable for where you are, and you don't get to be where it's suitable unless you are willing to make that happen.
The thing that gets me is that people treat private property, at least the way she describes it, as if, like, these are, like, fucking plug-and-play things, when private property is stationary, right? Like, so, like, if you don't like what's happening in your, quote-unquote, like, voluntary association, your free property, your private property, that means that you have to literally abandon your house, you have to abandon all that land, you have to go to a different different association and hope that you can purchase more private property in that association. And then, there are questions of, do I still own the private property in the association that left? I don't know. Like, these things, I don't know. Land is too stationary for shit like this.
Yeah, so then you just tie your horse up to your buggy and you sing Romany songs and you wheel your ass to.
That's fine, you still got. But I mean, like the whole thing. I'm telling you, like, I don't like the system. I don't like paying taxes. I don't think we should have to pay property taxes year after year. I'm against that. Do I have a better solution? No, I don't. I don't know how to keep the services going. Because again, we allowed the government under FDR and multiple other presidents expand, including our state. And prior to that, we allowed states and towns to basically take total control of your own private property. First off, you don't have private property. You don't own anything. If the government wants to implement eminent domain, it's going to take it from you. And it doesn't have to pay. We can pay you a penny on the dollar. If you really want proof of this and you think it doesn't exist, I don't know where to tell you. Go look at a history book. I'm sure there's a lot of people, particularly on Clubhouse, that'll tell you about eminent domain. But even still, the government can remove you. Like what happened at Love Canal. The areas around 3 Mile Island. The government can come in and say, you can no longer live here. It's too toxic. You lose everything. The government doesn't have to give you back that money. And for that belief that you can just turn around and sue and get compensation, that company has more money than you. Who's going to be the arbiter to afford that? That company doesn't have to exist within the constitutional framework. It can buy out juries. Who's going to be the enforcement mechanism for the judicial system? Who's going to enforce them to pay? If you say, oh, well, you poisoned my well, you owe me $1 million. Well, who's to make them pay? What enforcement mechanism is? And every time you start going down the tunnels and taking these theories on, every time you have the people like Bima and Chris, they just fold and they're like, oh, you guys are being mean to me. Like, fuck your feelings. You stated this principle and you called it voluntarism, and it's not even that. If it wasn't that, like Stilgar said it, I said it, Dewey said it, everybody kept contradicting and saying, you're not advocating for what you think you are, and you don't know this shit. And stop quoting Alex Jones.
It's crazy because she's just advocating living in a town. That's what it is. She's just advocating for like a village state, a town, a city state, whatever you want to call it. Like she just, I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like that, but like she also wants little tiny corporations to handle day-to-day functions, and that shit just, I don't know. The town part, I'm like, you're not really saying much, and then the corporation things, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's my studying of history. I feel like plutocracy is a bad idea, but whatever.
That's why libertarians always fall. And I always ask the same libertarians, where is fucking Aleppo? Because that's the closest you guys ever came to any prominence, and that was the best you could fucking do. Was Gary, what's his name, from the Libertarian Party, when he was asked a question about the ongoing conflicts and the issues in Aleppo, and Gary turned around as a candidate for president and said, what is Aleppo? And didn't know the answer. And that's how confused and idiotic libertarians truly are.
You have to understand the socioeconomic or security conditions of a small city in Syria to be president. Most of the time when you're going to put somebody in a leadership position, it's about how they think, not what they know. It's about how they execute, not like, having an encyclopedic knowledge of all things.
I mean, you don't know about Syria, but you should at least know the place you're going to end up bombing in the future, potentially, right?
Yeah, it kind of goes to the question, how can you execute on something that you don't know about?
Well, you educate yourself on the matter. I mean,
there you go.
Think not knowing about that particular subject in a panel discussion at that very moment disqualifies you from growing and understanding in that particular subject.
I think the problem.
Yeah, but I think that when they run, especially like when you're asked a question like that, like the expectation is that you do know the answer because you're ready to lead on day one. And I think that politically, like that's a big no.
Yeah, but you
necessarily current. It's not necessarily they're expecting you to know it, but I think what it is that these are, as far as being president is concerned, these are current events. And if you're going to be running the country during these current events, you should at least know a modicum of what's happening.
Bro, were you paying attention to a concept of a plan?
I have to tell you, I love all of y'all because I'm required to by my religion, but I really like some of you a lot. Just FYI. Gotcha.
I like you too, Monica.
I mean, Jill is a good example of like
You guys know who you
voluntarism.
are. Because I tell y'all I like you all the time. The ones I don't tell you I like you, they don't know.
If you call a woman in this room a bitch, Nathan's not going to come into your house and drag you up by your feet and put you in a cage. You know, you just don't get to participate in the room. This is a voluntary participation mechanism, and people largely adhere to the rules as a result because what you have to offer is something worth taking away from people.
Yeah. Also, the stakes are a hell of a lot lower.
Can you mod Melissa, please? Because she has most of all of John Edmonds' accounts blocked, and it's a measure of protection. It's an actual list.
How come we don't ask for protection from you?
So like
You're not scared of
for Stupid.
We know you're not scared of me because you're constantly abusive, but what you are is irritated because I'm effective.
No, I'm irritated by 400-pound women crying all the time and bitching about others when she does the very exact shit that he does, and then saying I'm a victim. That's what irritates me. The irritation comes from you being able to breathe in this world and dispute the bullshit that you have. The irritation comes from the fact that your mother didn't swallow.
You know you have zero evidence and you lie about it, which makes you a liar and untrustworthy. That's a you problem, not a me problem. I'm handing right back to you, sir. Thank you and fuck you very much.
Alright, so
And I still love you, but I'm required to in my face. Damn, you make it.
So
We'll get there tomorrow when Brad and Monica are done.
No, they're done. Brad made it.
I apologize.
That's crazy. Brad made it her. No, so like so she used so she understands it, right? Because as using kills and still Nathan knowledge, they're the authority apparatus. Moderators, they're an extension of the authority. So
you just got called an apparatus, Nathan.
And then to navigate around that, right? She says, well, that might be true. They're the ones with the enforcement capabilities and the whatever. But as stage members, we can all collectively at the same time come off mute and make noise to drown somebody out. And effectively, that's not doing what Nathan and Knowledge and them are doing by creating rules and enforcing rules. Like, that was the dilemma that I heard, I was like, whoa, it has the exact same effect.
She went sideways a couple times, but the primary point where she went sideways was this fine concept. Like, in a voluntarist system, you can't levy a fine against somebody other than, like, hoping they'll pay it. You can say, like, hey, you're naughty, you played loud music, you owe me $40 because I didn't get you sleep last night and I lost productivity the following day, and now you owe me money, and they can tell you to go fuck yourself, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I'm gonna file with the collection agency and say that Stilgar cost me $40 of labor, and he agreed not to disturb my. He's gonna be like, "What the fuck? I never signed this. What? Where did all these naked photos of me come from? What the fuck?"
Yeah, I mean, look, there are certain things that I definitely subscribe to the concept that are better handled by some collective authority, but I do think they should be voluntary. And I don't subscribe to this concept that we have to have, a centralized government to have roads. But certain things are in our best interest, and it should create a condition in which people want to participate in things, not create a condition in which people participate in things for fear of what will be done to them. civil liability is a strong asset, and I think without some centralized government, you can't utilize civil liability against someone. The ability to have, to go after Burger King because they got you salmonella is something I think we should have. I'm okay with the idea that force can be used in those scenarios. I just think we should limit the daily interactions that humans have with the government. I think we should stop living in systems where we have to justify behavior preemptively. I shouldn't have to prove to the government that my car is safe to drive on the roads. They should just wait until I drive on the roads in an unsafe vehicle and punch me.
That's gonna be difficult to do in a community, especially a republic where people are concerned about their safety, the safety of their offspring, family members, etc., where they're like, why do I have to wait for a car accident to happen when we could probably preempt this?
Yeah, but these are natural consequences that you're trying to outsource the erasure of to a state. You're trying to say, I want daddy government to point gun to people to make it safer for me to drive on the roads, and I don't think people are into.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends if